Based in Auckland, Cara Smith is one of New Zealand's leading women in technology. Cara has seen firsthand why it's important for the women to possess the right technical skills and to be able to compete in the field of technology. Now, as a technology management consultant, Cara has placed women in all positions from junior through to executive roles. Cara is also highly trained in behavioural-based techniques, which is why her company, Talent, recently conducted a survey to help correct the gender imbalance in tech. The report, titled Women in Tech, Are We There Yet?, outlines the findings from over 400 people across Australia, New Zealand, the UK and US working in the tech market. Now, the aim of the study is to globally address the issues still arising in the workforce. And joining us today, all the way from New Zealand, the author of the study, Cara Smith. Good morning, Cara.
Yeah, kia ora, morning.
I love the Maori language, thank you. Now, Cara,
you're welcome.
What was the most surprising thing that jumped out at you from the report?
Yeah, when I was reading it, and you can find it on our website, talentinternational.com. But when I was reading it, and when we were participating in the survey, it was really clear to me that although we are talking about diversity and inclusion and women in tech and all of the subsequent issues, that surprisingly we're actually going backwards. And there were some really staggering stats around how women are deselecting themselves from processes, how they feel that they're not being paid the same for the same work, how they feel like they're not being included in decisions being made at the table, and et cetera, and et cetera. So for me, I went, wow, we're talking about this more than ever. Every single time I go to a client, they are bringing up diversity, but yet somehow we're still going backwards. And that's shocking and a problem for sure.
As somebody myself who's got a vested interest in diversity, inclusion and around gender equality, it seems like we're always trying to fix women to fit in with the system when it's actually the system that needs to change to fit women. Would that be a fair characterisation of where we're going wrong?
Yeah, I love that you've said that actually. And something that I've said before is, you attend these kind of diversity events and it's woman talking to woman. It's like, we're not the issue, guys. And that's the framing that needs to be changed. We can't keep trying to fix us. This is systemic. We need to get on with making some real change.
Are there any mentors that you look up to in this field where you can see real drive and for change that are being implemented? People that you would say to, we need to look at their example, their company, the way that they've actually changed the system to more realistically fit both genders?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. And I think there are certainly organisations that are leading the way. Just one of the organisations we have the opportunity to partner with, Xero, they're doing some great moves in terms of paternity and maternity leave and making that equal. And I think there's someone they're really leading the way. But from a mentorship point of view, I kind of look at it in a couple of different ways, because when you are a woman in tech and when you are leading the way yourself, sometimes maybe you're the first engineer in a team of engineers that's all men. That can be really tough. And I think you need to surround yourself with people who you find inspiring, and people who can continue to fill your cup up. But also with people that can help you to reaffirm maybe that what you're doing is right, and give you that feedback. Because again, one of the stats coming out is that women are self-deselecting themselves from processes all the time. And I think you need to surround yourself by those mentors who can help you to qualify your experience so that you will put yourself more into these types of processes.
Yeah, just recently here in Australia, I read a report that said, I forget how much money it was, so I don't want to say, but it was a lot of money that was actually pumped into getting women into tech. And while the entry was there, so was the exit. So it was clearly a case of this is an industry that just simply isn't suited to the unique and I put it all down to caring responsibilities for women. But I also like to reverse it the other way. It's because men aren't enabled, encouraged or expected to be equally responsible for raising the next generation. So it falls on women, with dads being twice as likely to have their request for flexible work knocked back, then it falls on mum, of course. So how do you think we address and correct this outdated gender expectation around maternity and paternity leave, given that only mum can have the bub, mum needs to recover from the bub, but we also know the countries with the longest maternity leave also have the biggest gender pay gap. So have we unconsciously or unwittingly exacerbated the problem with all of this gendered maternity and shared job roles and all of those different things that have been aimed at enabling women to work, but also continue with the caring when it should be dads that need to step out and create that space for women? How do we address that, Cara?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And in the report, we talk about the motherhood penalty. And essentially, for every baby you have, it negatively impacts your promotions and your remuneration. I think that's startling. But I also currently have a very real personal experience with this. So I have a 7-month-old baby. I came back to work when baby was 3.5 months old, and my husband stayed home. And now he's in construction. And to be very honest with you, when he requested the leave, it wasn't that it was declined, it was accepted, but it wasn't encouraged. And there were multiple times when his bosses would call him up and they'd be like, hey mate, when are you coming back to work? Has your missus sorted out the care, which was the question that would constantly be asked. And his answer was, I am the care. It's my child as well. And my wife also has a career, and this is the decision that we've decided to make. So I think one thing we can do is to completely and utterly normalize mums and dads looking after their baby and sharing that role. To actually put that into place so that's feasible, though, you're going to have to look at things like equalizing or extending maternity and paternity leave, so that people actually can do that. So our family, for example, my husband didn't have any paid paternity leave, but I'm aware that perhaps that's something that we have the luxury in our family that we've been able to afford that, and not many families would be able to afford that. So if, for example, his company had a policy whereby that they would have, topped up the government stipend, etc., that is something that we can do. That is a real tangible thing that we could do that will make differences in mums and dads' lives. And I would take that a step further, that I think organizations need to realize this is actually around their employment brand. This is around their attraction strategy. This is around their retention strategy. We are in the most skill-short competitive market we have been in many, many years. This is one of the answers to solving that more broadly. This is not just around women in tech. This is around how do you attract the talent organizations require to deliver the programs and initiatives that they want to. And I think when people start to think about it a little bit differently than a nice to do diversity and inclusion program, I think that's when we'll start to see some real change.
Oh, Cara, you're singing from my hymn book with everything you've said there. As a solo dad, some of the challenges and hurdles I've struck, just trying to be accepted as a parent. And for some ridiculous reason, parenting seems to be the last bastion of contemporary society where we haven't really considered and addressed the outdated gender stereotypes that go with it. And that's where everything that you've mentioned begins. It's not that men aren't interested or suited to raising children. It's just we fear the same as women, the exact same fear. Should we be seen as less committed or devoted to our career, then it will affect our ability to feed our family, to provide for them. So here in Australia, we have 2 weeks at minimum pay available to dads. The 2 weeks at minimum pay really doesn't value fathering, but it lumps mum back into it, and it's a financial decision. It's not a gendered decision. So The gender pay gap plays into it. Dad earns more. So the reason Dad earns more is because he's expected to be there relentlessly, regardless. And as much as we know the motherhood penalty can take up to 12 years to get over a child, there's also, we need to consider in it, the fatherhood forfeit. We miss those years with our kids. We miss a harmonious and supportive relationship. And you know, it's both. And as you say, with the equality and diversity people, so many times, that's why I say diversity doesn't actually help when you're excluding half of the equation with not going, how will this impact men? How can we have men be part of the solution instead of just addressing it as part of the problem? So, and with tech, they're very technical, they're all of those, it's such a male-dominated industry, they haven't had to address this. And hopefully organisations like yours are bringing this to the fore. Any other things that you'd like to close with, Cara?
Yeah, taking it back to that women in tech are, we're wanting to, include them more, and we're wanting to help them drive forward in their careers. So I just want to take it back to one of the comments you made around mentors. I think it's so important to surround yourself with an ambitious, like-minded circle. So, that may be externally, that may be internally, that may be your manager, et cetera, et cetera. I think that is absolutely vital to surround yourselves. And then I guess my other thing I would say is say yes, because a stat that was coming through constantly was that we are deselecting ourselves from these processes. That's from promotions, from jobs, perhaps that's from initiatives within businesses. And so we need to just say yes. When an opportunity comes up, like this interview came up, I'll be really honest, I just said yes, and I said, I'll figure it out later. Because we need to adopt that mentality so that anything that comes our way, we take full advantage of it, we put ourselves out there, and then we learn from the process as we go. The other thing is, I would just say, just be yourself. We're in the era where people want to work for empathetic, real, humanistic individuals. Therefore, we're bringing that to the table. Just be yourself. And I think that will help us all go a really, really long way. So thank you for that.
Great advice, Cara, especially coming from a country led by a fantastic leader with a fantastic stay-at-home dad in Clark, one of my heroes.
Yes.
And as I say, we need to stop assigning Jacinda Ardern isn't just a good role model for women. She's a fantastic role model for men and what they should expect and support in a partner, just as Clark is an excellent role model for women in what they should expect and accept in a partner from a man. So we've got to get rid of this gendered separation. So thanks so much for talking to us today, Cara. I really enjoyed that and wish you well.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much.